Hello, welcome to another episode of Entropy Hourglass. This weekend we went to Luxembourg.
And we are right now on the train.
Back to Frankfurt.
Yeah.
There cannot see you.
I'm sorry.
But we recorded an episode with the people we went to visit, which were my brother João and his girlfriend Raquel, they are living there for 6 months and working there, both of them. And we wanted to talk about, since they are older, João is 7 years older than me, we wanted to talk about perspectives on getting older and what their plans are and how did they come to where they are now. And this is the beginning to give some context to this short episode, which is shorter than the other ones, but it's packed with good content.
Yeah, and
concentrate.
It's also, that pressure when you get 30. I cannot talk to them because...
Talk to them.
Yeah, the pressure that you have when you get 30, like you must be at some place in life. That's what we wanted to talk with João and Raquel, because they are both over 30 now.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought that like they have more experience in this life of being immigrants and some financial knowledge that we also want to acquire. So it's always better to learn from the ones that are already living something similar to us.
And we did. And I think you will too. Good advice they gave.
We asked you on Instagram what you wanted to know. And actually what you want to know is exactly how to move outside of the country and how is it to be abroad. So this is the perfect video for everyone who wants to just change the country and live outside of Portugal and have some more financial freedom and some different experiences.
Yeah. We'll give you the episode right now.
Yeah. Hope you enjoy. See you next time.
Talk to us if you want to and give ratings and whatever.
Yeah, give rates. We'd love to hear from you, and we have a lot of episodes to prepare, so
bye.
See you in a minute.
Bye.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to Entropy Hourglass. This is a podcast of intimate and vulnerable conversations between me and Nuno. And today we have guests.
We are in Luxembourg. We have two guests, two immigrants such as ourselves. Let's start by introducing them, right?
They can introduce them.
They will introduce themselves. So first things first, name, age, and what?
Whatever you want.
Whatever you want.
Yeah.
Just
no pressure. Super relaxed.
Who wants to start?
I can start. So my name is João. I'm Nuno's brother.
Yeah.
And I'm 32. And I'm worried that because sometimes people say that they can't, they say that we are too much alike. Not sure they know which one is which when they look at the camera.
Okay. I don't know.
They will try.
I guess it will be clear, maybe.
Yeah. They know me.
Okay. Good.
Okay. So, my name is Raquel. I'm João's girlfriend, who is Nuno's brother. I'm now 30. And yeah, I mean, as Nuno mentioned, the immigrant side of things, I have been living abroad since 2014. We are now in Luxembourg. Before we lived together in Ireland, and before that I had lived by myself in Luxembourg for 4 years.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting. When Nuno asked about the age, it was not to make any pressure. I think what is important in this podcast that we want to share is your experience, like living abroad and what you expected about life, and now you have different probably than what you expected before.
Because those kind of questions are what we are going through right now. Mm-hmm. And you already have that experience, and probably our listeners as well are more like us and trying to
immigrate.
think what their future is going to look like and what they want to do. But this is mostly for ourselves, not for everyone, but
yeah.
Never mind. So What
We
do you want
prepared.
to start with something, or can I?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I have some questions here ready, but let's start with. This is probably a difficult one, but it's free question. When you were a teenager, how would you envision yourself with 30 years old?
Well, I think when you're a teenager, being 30 years old seems so far away. That is something that, at least for myself, I barely thought of, to be honest. Because I thought it was like, someone who was 30 was old and probably about to die anytime soon. So, it's just like, you just don't really think much about that. But on the other side, I feel that I started to have the life that people have at 30 much earlier. Because I think that the fact that I went abroad so soon, I was like 21, so early in my life, made me have different responsibilities that I would not otherwise, as pay rent, pay your bills, all of that kind of stuff that you are supposed to have and that most people have at their 30s.
Because you're Portuguese, so that's the standard in Portugal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know for other countries, like you probably are expected to leave your parents' place at 20 or 21, but in Portugal, that's really not the case. So yeah, on that side, I think I always expected people in their 30s to have a lot of responsibility, probably have kids, which is not the case for us yet. And yeah, I mean, I think that's some points that I thought of. But do you want to add something?
Yeah, exactly. I just thought exactly the same, which is person with 30 should have their life figured out, a house, maybe kids on the way, maybe married. Because, I mean, you just look at your parents as an example, and our dad was a father when he was 30.
Yes.
Our mom was 26.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, it was 30 or so years ago, but yes, that's still in your mind, and you still look at them as the reference point for that. So you think that, maybe you'll have a similar life, but actually things change, and the lives that our parents had before were very much different from what we have now, with just being able to access the world and a lot of experiences which our parents didn't have at the time. So it just life is different. You have so many things happening, and then you look at your age and you're 30 and you understand that you don't have your life figured out, or maybe you're just living in the moment, not thinking very much into the future, because essentially you were or distracted or just living life day by day, enjoying it day by day without really thinking too much long term. So I guess I thought I would be much more of an adult that I am really.
Yeah, but for me what's funny as well, and I turned 30 exactly a week ago, and for me what I'm still figuring out is that I never had reaching the 30s as an important mark. For me it doesn't really matter, but what I realized is that for everyone else it seems to be actually an important point. So I think there is more like peer pressure in a way, because for example 2 days ago I was at work and a colleague was like, "Oh, but you're 30 already, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I just turned 30. "Oh yeah, if you're 29, you're way too young." I'm like, "But that's just 1 year of difference. Like, why does that matter?" So for me, it's really funny to understand that the 30 actually seems to be an important mark for the society, while for me, I never saw it as such. So it's actually funny in that way.
Okay, yeah, that's also related to what we were thinking when we came into this conversation with you. Was obviously what I think of myself, and I know you. You're living just day by day without setting marks for, okay, I must have this by this age. I think that's the natural for us, because we are not fixed to a country, to a city, so we are just exploring the world. So there's no way we can make that kind of plans not knowing where we are going to live in the next year. So that doesn't make any sense. But then the other question comes up, which you were saying, Raquel. People expect you to have some kind of thing, some kind of life, and that's the main question I had to ask you was how do you deal with that kind of pressure from friends, I guess, from work, from co-workers, from parents, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you my feeling about it, and then João, feel free to step in. But for me, I feel that, for example, there is an expectation that, you know, we are together for 5 years now, we probably should get married, right? So at my birthday party, there was a ridiculous amount of pressure for that. Like, we had my 7-year-old cousin coming to us and being like, when are you having kids? When are you getting married? And I was like, tell your mom whenever we want, you know? So I think that sometimes the pressure that I'm very keen to ensure that whatever we decide to do is not related to any peer pressure. And I think that sometimes the pressure that you receive probably has an opposite effect to the one that is desired, in the sense that we'll probably postpone some steps, in the sense that we want to be sure that we are not doing that because we are supposed to do that. So I feel that for me personally, it has the complete opposite effect of what one could expect. It's not like, I'm not getting married because my mom is asking me 10 times. I'm not getting kids because my small cousin wants to have a baby to play with. So I just have the feeling that for me personally, it probably has the opposite effect. And then, as you mentioned, we are not really attached to a country. And I feel that that has an effect in itself as well, meaning that we are postponing a few steps. You know, buying a house, we are not buying a house until we are sure that's where we want to live. Or, for example, even the small step of having a dog, right? So we have spoke about that. We are not having a dog here because we don't have the support network that we need to take care of the dog. So there are a number of steps that we are postponing, in my opinion, due to the fact that we are not living in our home country, but also that there is so much peer pressure that at some point it's like, you want to ensure that you are not doing it because of the pressure. So you end up postponing it. That's my feeling. How do you feel about it?
For me, really, I really deal well with that. I always think, I try to think by myself, and I never feel that anyone else's opinion, either parents or friends or whatever, will affect any decision. It's a very personal decision, having kids or getting married, and personal, or it's a couple decision. And I never really let anyone, it's not I'm not really thinking too much about this, but I never feel to be a huge impact on my decision, on my perspective, whatever other people might think. It's like, we discuss these things, we know where we are. I mean, we are just here in Luxembourg for 6 months. We don't have a very stable life. We haven't had a very stable life. So we are still trying to figure out ourselves, how to live just with each other. And then when we feel like we should take next steps, we will. And for me, at least, it doesn't have any effect. I don't know why, but it doesn't really. So, yeah.
I think that's good, right?
I think that's super important. I actually follow a influencer, a YouTuber that I really like, and she has 2 kids now. Yeah.
Can you say just for them?
Yeah, they know already, but it's Shan Budi. So, and she said, like, the best decision she made was not to have kids until she was prepared to. Yeah. She had the first one at 37, and she was like, yeah, this is the best decision because I already, like, traveled everywhere I wanted. I have already lived everywhere I wanted. Yeah. So now I am ready to have kids and to know that I will be, like, they depend on me for 18 years, more or less. So it's a lot of time.
Yes.
Yeah, and in that sense, I think, obviously for everyone, COVID kind of postponed things, because I feel the exact same way. I mean, I don't want, and I'm not saying people resent their kids for, you know, whatever they feel that they were taken by that decision, but I mean, I just don't want to feel that the fact that I'm having kids will prevent me to do anything that I wanted to do. So whenever, and if, because that's not something we are even certain of, if we decide that we want to have kids, we will do it at a point where we are kind of like, now we are happy to stay home for the coming, 18 years. Obviously, people travel with kids and all of that, but the hassle is completely different. So.
Yeah. For me, it's clear that it's like a huge responsibility, and that becomes the priority in your life. And if you're not ready to accept that, you'll have an hard time when you have kids, because you'll have to sacrifice a lot. And I'm very conscious of that. And when I feel prepared and I feel that I don't know, calling or whatever you might call it. I have to be sure that that's.
But can you imagine a life where in the future somewhere you have a kid? Or
Sure. Yeah, I can. It's not something that's. It's of course something that's crossed my mind, and it's kind of natural to think that, but I don't feel it yet that need to have a kid. I still have things that I want to do first, and we are still figuring out our relationship as well as we go along. A lot of things have changed in the recent months and years, and so
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's something that, and I keep telling that it's a step I'm not going to take unless I feel that I cannot live without having kids. That is really like a calling and that I really wanted. And then on the other side, and Sophia was mentioning the age, and for me, and obviously we women have a certain, biological, clock or limit on it. But I think the fact that I don't feel that if I have kids, they have to be biological. And I think that kind of takes pressure off, because I really feel that if it gets to a point when I'm 40 and for some reason I cannot have kids or whatever, for me it would not be a problem to actually adopt. So I think that takes the pressure off me in the sense of like having this clock and having this timeline. Of course that you have different energy and probably different patience as well if you're 30 than you have when you're 40, and you just have different energy, and that has to be considered. But then again, I think that the best decision, even for yourself and the kid, is to have a kid whenever you are ready. So yeah, I mean.
Yeah, for this YouTuber, I actually think she's very good at speaking of these complicated topics, and she says, okay, we want to have kids because we want to share the happiness that we share with each other with another person. Yeah. And we are not having kids because we need to have kids. So we would still be very happy if we didn't have kids. Yeah. So I think that's very important.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to ask this one?
It's nothing related to what we are talking about, but it's something that came to my mind is, do you feel like there are things that you can no longer do because you're too old?
Oh well.
From a mental standpoint or a physical standpoint, or
both?
Both. Well, we went out last night, and after 3 hours, my right knee was hurting. So I guess
that speaks for itself.
Exactly. I don't need to say anything more than that. But from a mental standpoint,
I don't know if it's because you're too old or because you have a knee injury.
I mean, yeah, but that comes with age as well. You don't recover as well, and I don't know. But from a mental standpoint, I don't feel like, this is. When I want to do something, I never think, maybe I'm too old to do this because I'm now 32 or something. Mm-hmm. I don't really think that. In a sense, I still think that I'm a kid, and I don't feel like I'm 32. I feel the same age I was 10 years ago. I know that's not the case, but in terms of maybe mentality, maybe you can confirm or deny that. I still feel like a kid, and I still want to try different things and to experiment and see. But
I agree, but I think I'm more aware of the fact that time passes very quickly, so I think I feel some pressure in terms of like I can no longer. So 10 years ago, or actually like when I first moved here nearly 10 years ago, I was kind of like, if it doesn't work, I'll move, I'll go somewhere else. And I think that, I still have that mindset. You feel that you don't have as much time to make mistakes in a way, because, and maybe I'm feeling like that because I just turned 30, but you're kind of like, your 40s are, just around the corner. So I think there is a bit of that pressure in the sense that you don't have the same leeway to make the mistakes that, in the past you could have made because you had so much time to catch up, or, it would really not be a problem. So I feel a bit that pressure. To be honest, but I don't feel any different, or I don't feel such a big difference in comparison to my mindset 9 or 10 years ago. So
yes, I guess it's the mindset is still the same, but maybe there's a bit more pressure to have things figured out and stable in terms of your career and have a clear path, or at least you, in theory, you would progress with age, and you would have more responsibility with age and with the number of years of work experience leads you to that. And there's some pressure on that, and I feel that I now have to, like, I'm not the young one anymore that's learning things. I need to think very carefully what I say and do, because some younger people will listen to what I have to say, and they are trying to learn from him. Same way I learned from my managers 10 years ago. And I definitely feel that has changed. So I have to take more responsibility, and I have more responsibility, and that's definitely something I need to change. I can't make the same errors as before, same mistakes. I have to be, have to make sure I learn from my mistakes now, and I will always make them. But you want to be, since you have that experience, you have also to want to be guiding younger people that have started working now, and I feel there's that pressure on that side mainly.
Yeah, and I think we go back to the pressure of the society and the expectations that people have from us as well. Because, I mean, it's the exact same thing, even though, for example, in my job, I'm new in my job, but I feel that I'm not allowed to make to ask the same questions that I could have asked like 10 years ago in the same position. So on that side, yeah, definitely, I think there is a different expectation from the society, and maybe that's more when I feel that I'm older than I was before, than by the man's mindset or something like that. That's not really much of a change for me, anyway. Or I don't feel it.
Good.
We have like some questions about professional and finances.
Yeah, that's something that is important to us as well.
Yeah,
and
but I think this is a good point to start, because like our parents like started in one job and they still are in that
same job.
Yeah, same job with
Basically.
the same company, more or less. And for us, we just like jump in between different companies, countries, everything. Do you feel that you found something that you really like to do, or you were still open to experiment in a different position or different tasks? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's difficult to answer, because I mean, I'm in this job for only 6 months, and it's very different than the one I had before, in the sense of the area and everything. And I feel that for me, it's really important that the environment where I'm working is a good one, and that I'm having some fun while working. And I feel that me personally, I put too much pressure in what's my job. For me, my job has a big, big importance in my life. And I'm trying to somehow reduce that, in the sense that I take more out of the world outside my job. So yeah, that's the other thing. But I feel that I'm still very much open to try and learn different things. So I don't feel that I feel as stuck, as probably our parents would have felt when they were 30 and they were in their jobs. So I feel that there's a lot more flexibility today as well, and it's more acceptable for us not to be as happy in our jobs in our 30s, and to explore different areas. And so, yeah, I from my side, I definitely feel more open to learn different things. And that's actually why I changed 6 months ago, because I was like, no, I mean, I'm very comfortable in my current job. I really like it, but it's maybe time, for that reason, because I'm too comfortable, maybe it's time for a change.
Can you share the area just so they can understand what's the difference between the previous one and this one?
Yeah, sure. So I have a data analytics, statistics, and informatics background. And in the past, I was working more into official statistics, meaning like collecting data to be shared with ECB and so on. And at the moment, I work more into investment area. So basically, I'm working now to collect data from banks on their investments. So the basis is the same, but in nature it's very, very different. Also because before I was managing the team, and now I'm actually like more involved in the work on a BAU basis. So it's just like, it is different in that sense. And again, the people you work with are very different. We changed countries for that. Before, as I was saying, we lived in Ireland, and now we are in Luxembourg. It's a more multicultural environment right now. So yeah, it is quite different. It's more operational, the job now, but funny enough, I really like it because you get to work a lot with the people in the company internally. So it's actually quite nice.
Yeah, for me, regarding your question, I know more or less the type of work that I want to do. I know that I have an IT background and I work mainly with data analytics, business intelligence, some machine learning sometimes. And I know the sort of environment that I want to have. I like to collaborate with other people. So that's a very important point of my job. If I was going to be on my own, developing things on my own for like a week, I think I wouldn't enjoy it after a while. I need that social component as well. Interacting with people is something I enjoy regarding work, but I also enjoy the technical challenge of developing something, of creating something using logic, using that sort of thing. It's very important for me as well. So having both is something I know I want for my future. But that can mean a lot of different things, a lot of different technologies, a lot of different sectors, a lot of different data information. And so even though I know that, everything else can be changed and things are always changing. There is always new technologies to learn, new ways of doing things, new methodologies. Things are always moving so fast that you need to be adaptable. That's your main skill. That's the main skill that you need to have a job right now, because things are changing so fast. And it's going to your point about our parents, where they had essentially one job and that was it for the rest of their lives. And nowadays it's not like this, also because people can travel and can move to different countries, but also because the rate of change is increasing. And it's very rare that you would have there are still jobs like this, of course, that they are stable and you can do mostly the same thing for a long number of years, and that should work. But in our field, in my field, for example, it's changing all the time. So you have to be adaptable and willing to learn new things and new ways of working, and that's really, really important.
But with your experience, is it fine to look for a job with a completely different technology you never worked with, and you would have to learn it from scratch? Is that a...
Yes, that's a possibility. It depends, of course, on what people are looking for, right? There might be some opportunity for that. But for example, when I moved to Ireland in the first place, one of the main technologies that we used, I never worked with before. And they knew that, and they were willing to give me time to learn technology and to invest in me. And they were confident that with some time I would be able to actually be proficient using it, and I would catch up. And so yes, that's clearly the case. So it's not like you are just a specialist on this and that's what they're looking for. Maybe some companies do that, or maybe for certain roles that's needed, but for others, what they want to know is that you are capable of learning new things. And that's very important, because nowadays you're using one technology, in 2-3 years time, 5 years time, it's a different one, and companies are always changing, and so you need to change as well with them.
I have a comment, because in your 20s you are not sure who you are, and you are not sure what you like and what you like to do. And both of you said, for instance, like Raquel said, I want to collaborate with other person in the job, and also João told I like to work in the team. I also like to do some work independently, but I need to collaborate with the team. So I think the 30s or late 20s are when you learn what you like to do, and I think that's where you gold years are, when you know exactly what you want to do and you don't waste time with things that you don't like that much.
Yeah, I agree, and especially when you have a certain, how can I put this, when the market or where, you know, the field that you work in gives you that flexibility. Because, for example, I have worked mostly in companies where flexibility is given, even in the sense that if I'm not happy there, I can move and go have another role within the same company. And I think that if you have this kind of flexibility, it's obviously easier to say, I'm not happy here, I'm moving. I did that in my previous company. I was like, I was not happy with the role I had, it was too technical for me. I was not getting enough collaboration and, you know, exposure to different working groups, for example, so I moved. And I think that if you have that flexibility, it's also easier. But definitely I feel more comfortable asking for that today than I would have 9 years ago. Probably before I would have been like, okay, I'll just stay here and, you know, do the job and so on. But now, as I know what makes me happy, and that, as I was saying, is such a big part of most people's lives, I believe, it's something that I'm not happy to compromise, you know, so I'll just go for it.
Yeah, I think that's super important. Okay, so we don't have that much time anymore. We have 2 more questions, and
let's go to the financial and leave the rest.
No, I will just join these 2. So it's like, do you have any advice, like regarding professional terms and also financial terms, how to deal with money for younger people?
Because we haven't talked about it yet.
Yeah.
But also the way you deal with money when you start working, and then you have always to think long term, because now it's your money, and now you want to buy a house eventually, or a car, or whatever. So basically that's the question is,
if you have any advice, like regarding changing career or changing country because you need to earn more money, or how to manage your money, how do you do it? If there is any advice you would like to add before,
like would you give yourself in the if you had 18 years?
Maybe I think I would start by saying, if I would give an advice to myself, would be think long term, and even though you might not have many projects right now to do with the money that you're receiving, especially when you're 21, 22, starting your work, maybe you're not thinking of buying a house or raising a family or doing investments or whatever. I would say you have to approach it with that mindset, because it's very important that when you have projects that you want to achieve, you need to have some money to achieve them. So, and it's better to start planning sooner rather than later. And I was not very good with this, and actually Raquel helped me with this, more of a long-term vision on things. I'm very short-term and focused on what I want to do right now, what I want to do maybe next year. But beyond that, I was never thinking so far away into the future. And I think especially when I started dating Raquel, things changed, because I also had someone that had that vision, but also I had someone to share a life with and share a future, and that changes your mindset as well. And I'll let the expert speak.
No, come on. No, but I mean, I feel a bit the same way. I think we were very good for each other in that sense, because again, if I would have to say anything to my 21-year-old self, would be stop wasting your money. Because I definitely, I mean, I think you have to find a balance, right? You are only in your 20s once, so for God's sake, do the trip if you can, go out if you want to, I mean, do all of those things, but find the balance between using that money in a way that actually you are happy with, but also that you put something aside for the future. And obviously having someone that, you know, you want to have a future with and that you have plans with helps you, in the sense that you feel like you have something that you're working towards together. And that's important. But even if you don't, you will have someday. So just, you know, think about that. And if you want, then you need it for yourself. So absolutely my recommendation would be try to find the balance between partying hard, but also provision for the future, and think about what you'd like to have in the future. Because, you know, especially if you're saving money, time is very important, so, you know, starting in your early 20s is very different from starting in your early 30s. And that has a big impact. So I'd say that. The other thing, because you mentioned the fact that we are abroad and all of that, if that's something, and I think we even saw it now when moving here, is that you will spend a lot of money before you start saving when you move. I mean, you have your first few months rent to pay. you have all the electricity and so on before you get your first paycheck. So you have all those bills. So one recommendation I have is if you're moving, move with some safety net, provision for that, because you will need it. I mean, especially if you move to a country where you'll be earning more, but things are also more expensive than in Portugal, which is the case for Luxembourg. So,
but I also would say that it's in your, when you have time ahead of you, it's the time that you take risks, and maybe if you're not sure of moving to another country, you don't know how life is going to be, you still you should try to make that step, even though maybe you're not absolutely sure, because you'll still have time to, you'll still make mistakes regardless of where you are, but you'll have always possibility of getting another job, even if it's a lower paid one or whatever. You can make those risks, and of course you need some safety net, but you still should do some risks. And I can tell you that after moving abroad, the options of the amounts of things that I can do right now with our current financial situation and the opportunities that we had while moving abroad really improved a lot regarding comparing to what my life was before while living in Portugal. There's just more option, more things you can do, and it really was worth it doing that step, even though at the beginning there's always uncertainty and you don't know what's the market on the other side and how competitive it can be. But I think the 20s, it's the time where you give everything and you focus on a few things, and you have to sacrifice to get to a point where in maybe your 30s you are you had that experience and now you know what you want to do and you know what sort of life you have. But the 20s is for sure the time where you need to make risks and sacrifice and fight for something better. And that will, and for me, I can speak for myself, it was really worth it, that sacrifice and that change that I made. So
yeah, I mean, I think one important thing to say about that is that it will not always be nice. I mean, it will not always be pleasant. I mean, stepping into a country, having no one to pick you up at the airport, and go to an address you don't even really know where it is, with your bags and, like a mess. It will not always be fun, but I think it will be worth it. And okay, the 20s, I think in your 20s, you are in a much more comfortable position to do that. So if people can afford it, I would definitely recommend that.
Yeah, I just want, we don't have much more time because we need to go to Frankfurt again. But I want to thank you. It was very interesting for me, at least.
Yeah, I was just going to say this sounds like a commercial for immigration.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Portugal.
Please come, please.
Sorry.
No, but at least give it a try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
it's good.
Yeah. So thank you very much. I think everyone will appreciate it also.
Hope so. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Wait.
No,
we have
bye.
that final question that is
do you want to ask it?
Yeah,
okay.
nothing
you
regards.
You want to do it?
You can also do it.
No, I did it last time.
More or less like a stupid question in the end.
That's fine.
So imagine that you are planning a vacation, and we want to know who stresses about not being late for the airport or...
Me. Always me. João is a nightmare for that. He thinks he always has time. Yeah. So, that's definitely me.
Or is it the contrary? Like, I never stress and you're like, we need to go to the airport. We need to...
3 hours early, so...
Yeah, no.
Yeah. But then I'm late and you're not.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why I worry, because I need 3 hours because I know I'm going to be late like 30 minutes or 1 hour, so... I need to worry.
No.
Yeah. Now it's finished.
Okay.
Now it's finished.
Thank you, guys.
Bye. Bye.